It's my feel-good breakfast show.
Welcome back. We are still continuing your health talk here on your Feel Good Breakfast Show. And of course, this week we are commemorating World Salt Awareness Week. The 2021 theme for this campaign is more flavor, less salt. And of course, clinical psychologist and CEO of the Heart and Stroke Foundation, Professor Pamela Naidu, is still with us and will be telling us a bit more about the recommended daily salt intake and also how salt can be substituted in everyday home cooking. So good to have you back with us.
So, Professor, question, now that we're learning, how much salt should we be consuming daily? And what happens then if we consume too much salt to our bodies physically?
Right, yeah. So, as you said right at the beginning of this clip, you know, that the World Health Organization, all based on evidence, remember, whatever we recommend is always based on science.
Yes.
So we shouldn't be having more than, to make it understandable, let's not talk about the sodium, let's talk about salt.
Okay.
So the equivalent of 1 teaspoon a day in total.
In total?
Absolutely in total. So that you shouldn't exceed that. So if you feel perhaps your lunch had a bit extra salt, then you just need to make sure that the rest of your day. So yeah.
Cutting down on
You cut it, yeah. And then the effect on your body is that it can actually just pump up your blood pressure. So, yeah.
Which you don't want. You really are bringing the awareness into Awareness Week. I mean, all of these are things I didn't know.
I want to ask a silly question. Is there something as having too little salt in your body? So, for instance, if I lived a salt-free life, like ate chicken with no salt or nothing, is there effect that could have on my body, or would I just be...
I would say there won't be too much of an effect as long as you're eating a healthy meal, you know, or healthily throughout the day. However, if you are undernourished, then it's going to be a problem.
Okay.
You know, so you find people with eating disorders, for example, tend to cut out really important ingredients in their meals because they believe it's going, you know, it's going to make them huge or oversized or whatever. So that's a problem. Then, of course, the lack of salt is going to have an effect on your musculature and so on.
So now I'm thinking there probably are so many people watching this show right now who are having their breakfast, having their eggs, and have hoed the salt into it. They've done a whole spread, or maybe last night for supper, who are thinking, wow, I've got all of this salt in me. How do I flush it out? Is there a way to flush it out? Or is that Tabiso thinking?
So you can't, well, technically you can, but you can't really flush it like, you know, that graphic image in my mind is I can drink 2 liters of water and I'm going to flush this out. No, but I think you can just control the rest of the day. Just ensure that you don't take too much salt for the rest of the day. And look, water is a really essential, you know, liquid that it does wonders. So don't replace it. Obviously, you do need nutrition, but water is an amazing way to detox the body. It really is. So, you know, perhaps not too much tea and coffee because then you're tempted to add the sugar. And if you go sugarless, you're fine.
Okay, Josephine Pickstone, that was for you. Put that salt shaker away. And you, Daphne Nunley, I know you like your salt. Put that away. Thank you. Thank you.
Let's talk about foods now. Which foods are loaded with salt and which foods should we look out for that are hidden with salt in them?
Correct. So I think here's a simple rule. The more natural the food, the better for you. Okay. So for example, you know, we know nuts and legumes are good for us, but nuts, get the unsalted variety. Okay? Because the moment you have the salted nuts, it means that they've had to coat the nut to absorb the salt onto the skin. And so then that adds your salt to it. The other kind of simple rules, any processed food is going to have way too much salt. Okay? Certain types of dairy also, you know, like your yellow cheeses and so on, has a lot of salt in it. Processed foods like sausages.
Wow.
You know, because the point is that food manufacturers will develop products that's going to make it tasty. But we're so, it's almost like a bit of a flock mentality because you think, oh, no, for taste, you've got to have the salt. When actually, you can retrain your taste buds. And so try cooking at home and doing what we're talking about.
Yes.
And very soon you won't be able to tolerate extra salt.
And this is a good, I think, a good habit to get into for people out there, to look at reducing the amount of salt that they're consuming, to see how easily over time they're able to get into new ways of doing things. But of course, people are looking for flavor, and we can't escape the fact that
Sure.
we want to add that flavor and that salt taste. What are some of the alternatives or substitutes
Sure.
to salt that people can use?
So your age-old spices, that's amazing. It's got so many health benefits, from cinnamon to turmeric, to cardamom, all of that stuff. Even capsicum or chili, like you make a curry with curry powder.
Yes.
That chili is actually really good for you.
Yeah.
So there's spices. Then there's obviously herbs. You
Yes.
can use any amount of herb that you want.
And they can be really great.
And they're great because it's quite tasty. I mean,
Yes.
it's like a wine pairing. You can have a herb pairing, So if you're making lamb, you're going to have rosemary.
That is smart.
Yeah.
You're gonna, like that. So you get to learn what goes with what. If you have fish, you can use dill, that kind of thing. And then, of course, lemon is also an age-old, lemon and lime. So in the East, Vietnamese cooking, they use a lot of lime. It's very tasty with lemongrass, so you learn to
Yes.
flavor.
Well, you
And
should do
then-
a cooking segment with
should.
us, Professor.
Definitely.
We should
But
get
That's
you in the
why
kitchen.
you also need to go on our website at
Yeah.
the Heart and Stroke Foundation South Africa. We've got 4 recipe books that you can access,
Which you've brought along.
which I brought along, the last one. And so, but you get loads of ideas from there.
This is really fantastic.
Definitely. We also have 2 social media comments that came through for you.
Sure.
One is from Norma Parker. She's saying, "Good morning, my blood was very low, but I love potato crisps. Is it harmful?" Maybe you can answer that.
It's very harmful. I'm sorry.
Oh, Norma.
Sorry to disappoint. But you've got the oil, which is the trans fat, which we do not recommend either. In some countries in the world are banning trans fats.
Oh.
And then you've got the salts on top of that.
So there are 2 things
Stay
there.
away, stay away.
Well, the next one's from Lynn Trutter, or Trutter, who says, "There's days where I have a pinch of salt on my tongue. I believe it's good for cramps in your body. Is
Oh,
it
yes.
Because I've heard that. My
No,
grandmother also believes
Yes,
that.
I was just about to tell you that now. Back in the day,
Yeah.
growing up, so if you had a cramp in your leg, they said put a little salt under your tongue and it would take the cramps away. Please debunk this. Is it true?
I wouldn't say it's totally untrue.
Yeah.
I think also for low blood pressure they recommend it. So you've got the high blood pressure,
Yes.
and then if you have low blood pressure, that also leads to cramping, lack of energy, and so on. You feel nauseous, you want to lie down, and so on.
Yeah.
So I think that life is not simple, right? This is
Yes.
now a complex question. Because if you've had a stressful day, you haven't eaten well, and you end up feeling the way you've over-exercised, and you've been inadequate in hydrating.
Yeah.
All of those things, because the body's like a really great car, right? So you're going to have the indicator or the dashboard light go on if something is lacking, or if it's in excess. So then you're going to have to take heed. And so, a little bit of salt on those days, it's not going to harm.
Well, I suppose,
Yeah.
and I mean, I'm not a doctor, as you very well know, but I think just based on the information we've just gotten from the professor, Lynn Trutter, I would say as long as the salt you're putting under your tongue or on your tongue during that day is not more than the recommended intake for that particular day, then I think you might still be fine. And if it is around there, then it should be the only amount of salt that you have. But Professor, thank you so much for joining us. Of course, Professor Pamela Naidu is the CEO of the Heart and Stroke Foundation here in South Africa. They've done this incredible cookbook that's going to help us really look after ourselves and look after our hearts. It's called Cooking from the Heart, and you can get it on their website. Their website is cookingfromtheheart.co.za. But also you can look at ichangeforhealth.co.za to get information on how you can better look after your health. Lots of interesting recipes in here. And hopefully one day, Dr. Pamela, when we look at health, can have you in the kitchen showing us how to substitute, right?
Be more than happy to. I always say to people, I practice what I preach.
I love that.
So I'm going to show you.
I love it. Love it.